If she screamed, she would die. The sound would travel far in the snow, farther than her strength ever could. So she stayed silent, teeth clenched, breath shaking as the cold crushed in from every direction. She was already trapped. From the very first moment, her legs were buried deep in snow that felt heavier than stone. Every movement dragged her further down, as if the ground itself was pulling her under. The blizzard erased the world beyond a few steps, turning trees into shadows and shadows into nothing. Her breath came out in short clouds, loud in her ears. She forced herself to slow it. Panic burned warmth. Warmth meant life. She tried to pull one leg free. Pain shot up her calf like fire. She froze, biting her lip to keep quiet. The forest around her was silent in a way that felt wrong. No birds, no wind in the branches, just falling snow and her own breathing. She was not alone. Idly, her fingers slipped into her pocket, stiff and clumsy. The phone screen flickered once, then dimmed. No signal. Battery almost gone. She stared at it for a heartbeat, then pushed it away, as if accepting something final. The cold crept deeper, biting through her clothes, crawling along her skin. Her toes were numb now. She knew what came next if she stayed still too long. Confusion. Sleep. Never waking up. Think, she whispered, barely louder than the snow. She forced her leg free slowly, then the other, muscles screaming in protest. She stumbled forward, half falling, until she reached a fallen tree, buried in white. Snow piled against it, formed a shallow hollow. It wasn't safe. It wasn't warm, but it blocked the wind. She dropped to her knees and started digging with bare hands. Pain flared, then faded into numbness. Snow packed under her nails, soaked her sleeves, burned her skin. She didn't stop. Then she heard it. A crunch. Not hers. Her heart slammed hard enough to steal her breath. She froze, listening. Another crunch. Slower. Heavier. Her stomach tightened. Every instinct whispered the same warning. Predator. Snowstorms were hunting time. Prey moved slowly. Sound didn't travel well. Perfect conditions. She didn't look around wildly. That wasted energy. Instead, she worked faster, dragging branches closer, snapping them with shaking hands. She stacked them against the fallen tree, packing snow into gaps, sealing the shelter tighter. Her breath echoed inside the small space she carved out. Then the growl came. Low. Controlled. Close enough that she felt it vibrate through the snow. Her body went cold in a new way. She pressed herself deeper into the shelter, barely daring to breathe. Snow shifted outside. Something circled. Paws pressed into the snow, slow and deliberate. A sniff, a claw scraped against wood. Once. Twice. Testing. She wrapped her fingers around a broken branch, its end jagged and sharp. It was nothing against teeth and claws, but it was all she had. The shelter shook violently. Snow collapsed inward, spilling over her shoulders. Cold air rushed in. Eyes flashed through the white. Too close. Too fast. The animal lunged. She screamed as weight slammed into her chest, crushing the air from her lungs. Pain exploded in her shoulder, hot and sharp. Teeth. Or claws. She didn't know. She stabbed blindly, again and again, screaming through clenched teeth. The branch struck something solid. A sharp cry cut through the storm. Then the weight lifted. Snow sprayed as the animal retreated, disappearing into the white, wounded or startled. She lay there, gasping, shaking uncontrollably. Warmth spread down her arm. Blood she forced herself to move before shock could take over. She tore her scarf free and wrapped it tightly around her shoulder, pressing hard until her vision blurred. Pressure. Stop the bleeding. She rebuilt the shelter with frantic movements, packing snow thicker than before, sealing every crack she could find. She couldn't survive another attack. She needed fire. Her hands barely worked as she searched her pockets, A lighter. Wet. She dried it against her clothes, shielding it from the wind. Click. Nothing. Click. A spark. She tried again. Flame. Tiny. Fragile, but real. She fed it carefully with dry bark and twigs, guarding it with her body. Tears froze on her cheeks as warmth touched her fingers for the first time in hours. Fire meant life. Fire meant light. Fire meant the animal would stay away. The night dragged on endlessly. The storm screamed outside, wind shaking the shelter, snow piling higher. She didn't sleep. She rocked slowly, feeding the fire, listening to every sound beyond the thin walls of snow and wood. Once, far away, she heard movement again, but it never came close. When morning finally arrived, the storm had softened. Pale light filtered through the snow. Her body ached, her shoulder throbbed. But she was alive. She pushed herself upright, every movement slow and painful. She didn't know how far help was. She didn't know if it would come at all. But she had survived the night, and in the wild, that was everything.